Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Scribe Mk2, which may initially not make all that much sense since there isn't a field scribe on the channel. The reason is that there was one yesterday actually. Some of you saw it, but I think it was just 3 people before I took down the video. And the reason for that is that I made some mistakes in the video and some hiccups here and there, and overall I wasn't just all that pleased with the video, and so I decided to re-record it. Now, as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the latter part of the video we're going to take a look at the build itself, meaning the weapons, the whole equipment, the perks and all that jazz. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you the gameplay, and what this is going to be about, it is going to be a Gunslinger which uses the Crusader pistol, which is one of the newest weapons in the game. And one big reason why I took down the video was that before recording the video I made some last minute changes. Now basically I ran with a certain build, pretty much the same build I'm using at the moment, but just before recording the video I thought I switched some perks around, and even though it wasn't a whole lot of changes I made, they turned out to be quite devastating. Like, for example, I decided against using Tenderizer in favor of Lone Wanderer, which for some reason I'm not quite sure why, but the damage I was missing out on seemed way more significant than it should, so I decided to re-record the video with Tenderizer on, just because I think the performance is way better. Now, another thing I mentioned yesterday, I had some spelling mistakes just by often saying VATS instead of stealth. For some reason, I'm not sure what happened there. Well, anyways, we're not going to use any stealth in that video. We're heavily relying on VATS though, but we're a bit differently spec'd into VATS than usually. I'm going to get to that later though. And what weapon I'm using here is probably the most interesting part about the video, and we're going to use a 2-shot explosive Crusader pistol. Now this is something I was talking about in the video yesterday. Anyways, I was very happy with getting the weapon first and foremost, because as you don't know, if you don't know, sorry, how you obtain a legendary Crusader pistol is quite a tedious process. You have to unlock the plans from daily ops in order to craft the weapon, which in and of itself is, yeah, you need a lot of luck to get them. And after that you can craft Crusader pistols. However, you can't craft legendaries like with the Wastelander's gear. You really have to rely on the purveyor or certain events, the public events, something like Scorched Beast Queen event or something, to get a chance to get a legendary Crusader pistol. So overall, as you can imagine, it's quite hard to get a... oh, there he was, quite sneaky for such a big guy. Overall, the chances of getting something you want are really low, so overall you can already say that there's basically no chance. Wanna have this fiber optics bundles, might as well grab those over there. Yeah, the chance of getting a certain legendary version of this weapon is near impossible. Like, if you say you are a bloody build and wanna have a bloody explosive version of the weapon, yeah, that can take ages. I mean, you always can get lucky, and theoretically you could get there within an hour, but yeah, most likely it's going to take you ages. So I was really pleased getting this weapon. Now, for some reason I actually have gotten like 3 to 4 different legendary Crusader pistols already, which is kind of lucky. However, even though there were some decent ones, there wasn't really a banger in there. Like, I had a Vampires and a quad version, but both of them had, one had limb damage, one had bashing damage, so yeah, the prefixes were quite good. However, the major and minor effects were pretty lackluster, to be honest. And then I got this weapon here, a TSE with reduced weight. Now, reduced weight isn't the best perk on a pistol because they're not heavy anyways. However, there's certainly worse effects, and the 2-shot explosive combination is actually the thing that's very interesting here. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of 2-shot explosive weapons. I never was actually. I think in fact that's the first time I am showing off one. However, one big drawback to two-shot explosive weapons got completely eliminated recently, and that was the big condition drain they had, like degrading 4 times as fast as other weapons, which is already very cool, and it really helps two-shot explosive weapons being more useful. So what you can see here is something we're also using, since we have the Demolitions Expert in order to boost the explosive effect on our weapon. We might as well use explosive weapons. Now, what you can do is you can use any kind of launcher, from a Fatman up to a auto grenade launcher or something. However, in terms of a secondary weapon, I have found the Thumper, so the M79 grenade launcher, to be a very feasible weapon. And we're actually getting swarmed a little bit here, so we might as well switch back to our main weapon in order to have some more damage per second. Not sure where that ghoul came from, to be honest. Alright, there's another one. Have they followed me all the way from the Sons of Dane compound? Probably. Back to the topic. I decided to go for a Thumper, a M79 grenade launcher. First and foremost because I had a two-shot version of it, which is good, but also because I think it kind of fits the vibe of it, and I always just liked it. Now, it's in all points inferior to the auto grenade launcher for some reason, but yeah, I don't know, I was always a big fan of this weapon. And how the fuck many ghouls, now it's this one, alright. I always liked it, and it's a cool addition. Like, the best thing was, even when the game came out, this benefited from the explosive effect as well as the shotgunner perk, so this was actually quite ridiculous, even though it wasn't really usable, because as we all know, explosive weapons were just breaking every now and then. And on this occasion we're not going to kill these guys because we are actually part of the Brotherhood. Imagine that. Now, back to the main weapon we're using here, the Crusader pistol. A big point I made yesterday was I was using the cryo modification for this weapon, and something very interesting is about this weapon. If you're using the cryo modification, I haven't tested this with the fusion mod, but I'm pretty much sure that it would behave the same. Something interesting happens. It actually behaves similar to a legacy weapon, a explosive energy weapon, in terms of damaging yourself. Now, it's not as overpowered as, for example, a explosive laser. Alright, that was to be expected. An explosive laser rifle, for example, those guys are way more powerful because they have the beam splitter and everything. However, what I'm talking about is if you're using explosive weapons, no matter if it's launchers or regular weapons with the explosive effect, usually you can completely negate all the damage you're doing to yourself, or at least the vast majority of it, by using a dense chest piece and the fireproof perk combined. Now, usually on weapons like this, like two-shot explosive weapons, even the dense chest piece or the fireproof perk are actually enough in order to make it very redundant. Like, for example, you can see here, alright, we're getting shredded here. However, well, we were just badly prepared. However, you can really negate most of the damage you're doing to yourself. What I found out though is if you're using one of the energy modifications for this weapon, that's not the case anymore. I even showed it off during the video, but even with fireproof rank 3 and the dance chest piece at the same time, I was pretty much dealing whole explosive damage to myself. I was able to kill myself within 3 shots, 2 to 3 shots from full health, which is really odd. Like, this shouldn't happen, and I even talked about how it's possible that this would have been a good thing for PvP if someone's interested in that, but that's another story. Now, obviously the explosive effect gets boosted by the two-shot effect because both projectiles are carrying the explosive damage. However, it shouldn't have. It was way overperforming in terms of damaging ourselves. Now maybe we can even use some sneak here, just before we... Alright. This guy is legitimately shredding us. Now, I'm a bit pissed that he was in stealth even though we weren't even there, so... Yeah, well, one last try if we're not going to kill him. You know how assault runs work, basically. If you're a VETS character, they're hard, but they're already hard, so they're just hitting very hard. Anyways, back to the topic. Yes, with the TSE version, I felt like I was doing like 4 times damage to myself. It was kind of ridiculous, and yes, I now use the 5.56 modification for my Crusader pistol, which gives us a bit more ballistic damage, but no additional energy damage, and the weapon performs how it should in terms of damage to ourselves. So it's actually very usable, and we don't run fireproof. We only use a dense chest piece, and it's enough. Like, I can show that off here. Yes, we're damaging ourselves, but very, very minor, so it's something we don't really have to pay attention to at all. Now, what I like about this weapon is it's actually one of the rare occasions where gunslinger weapons really work out and you don't need to use every bit of extra damage you can get. Like, on most occasions, if you use a pistol, you really have to excessively use VETS crits, jump around, or even use stealth in order to make them a viable choice, and that's not really the case with this weapon. It has respectable man-stopping power. The damage output is great. It is semi-automatic with a pretty good fire rate, so you can use follow-up shots quite easily. So even though we are using the grenade launcher in order to deal with bigger enemies like the Scorched Beast or behemoths, for example, you can actually tear down through enemies pretty fast with this weapon at the expense of some shots. However, you're using 5.56 ammo, which is pretty abundant and easy to get, and yeah, it's completely viable to kill Mirelurk Queens and behemoths and everything. There's nothing I ever felt like I desperately needed to use a backup weapon. It's just so I have some fun with Thumper here and there. However, you could entirely use just this weapon and be perfectly fine. So you can just empty your mag very quickly, and most enemies go down with 2 to 3 shots anyways. Now, being a semi-automatic weapon means that the concentrated fire perk will perform very well, so even though we have high perception, we hit relatively reliably anyways, but also at range where we really don't have the hitting chance anymore, we can easily get there by just shooting some shots. Now, you can also use this thing very efficiently outside of VETS. However, I just feel more comfortable using VETS. For those of you who follow the channel, you probably know why I feel more comfortable with that. But yes, the damage output is great. We're not the most tanky guy in the world, but we do use our stimpaks here and there. I don't find them hard to come by, especially with daily ops and everything. Now, speaking about the devil daily ops, you can actually perform relatively well with this build. Now, there's these obvious problems, like, for example, robots with freezing touch or resilient enemies. Like, those are just a pain in the ass, but that's not really a thing of the build, but rather a problem with the enemies being tedious. But if you have something like volatile blood eagles, for example, or freezing touch super mutants, you can definitely deal with them. The M79 grenade launcher works very well in those situations too, and you also get the ammo back, so that's kind of good thing. You can also use daily ops to farm the grenades, the 40mm grenades, pretty reliably if you find it hard to obtain them by crafting. Now, I don't think I need to tell you how to get 5.56 ammo. You can craft it or trade for it. It shouldn't be a problem to get that. And the single best thing about this weapon I actually found is that it really feels like a handheld shotgun. I mean, that's just because it is a TSE version, but I still don't feel the same if I'm using a two-shot explosive 10mm pistol, for example. So it's something about the sound design and the bulky visual design of the weapon that makes it like that. And yes, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about it. Now, just in order to keep our adrenaline going, we're shooting this here chicken. Now, there's a Deathclaw, not the most tanky enemy, but it serves our purpose to show that the weapon has man-stopping power. We obviously went for the belly here. Now, one thing I know people kind of want to see oftentimes is if you're using explosive weapons or weapons with this explosive effect, is to go for torso shots rather than headshots. However, I felt like on most basic enemies I was still performing better with just doing headshots. So yeah, I went for that. I'm using body shots if I go for the thumper, which on this occasion might be fun. Like the ridiculous range and that's hit chance with the grenade launcher makes it a really fun weapon. And nowadays that it doesn't break so much, it's actually a very enjoyable weapon. I really love it. I'm carrying it on currently three different characters, I think, but that's just because I always wanted to use it and now I finally can. So yeah, do some kills from range here. Works also very nice with the Gun2 perk. And yeah, you can basically stand back. Let's have a stim pack here. Alright, we should have reloaded. This thing obviously can easily benefit from the reload perks that you get for heavy weapons. However, on this occasion it is our backup weapon, so we didn't really invest into it like in any form actually. It's just there because we have the Demolitions Expert perk. The only thing we do have is the Ordnance Express perk, so we can carry the ammo easily because we're not having the biggest carry weight capacity. So yeah, we would be having a problem if we're just carrying like 40mm grenades around otherwise. Now obviously you can avoid the perk and just use or carry just like 20 or 30 40mm grenades. That wouldn't be a problem. However, you want to have a bigger a stash of those lying around. Now that was everything in terms of gameplay. I'm really pleased compared to the yesterday's video, and now we're getting into the more interesting stuff here. So first and foremost, I'm going to show you this one here as I explained it. I'm hearing something. Alright, back to the topic. Here's the weapon, a two-shot explosive 90% reduced weight Crusader pistol. I really love the weapon, it's great. And well, here it is, the two-shot bats hit chance grenade launcher, M79 grenade launcher. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary here. Now in terms of armor, we are a bit all over the place. We do have a troubleshooter's right leg. The rest is Vanguard, one with AP refresh, but I think that's everything. The rest is, yeah, either 1-star or one with a bit more radiation resistance. So nothing out of the ordinary here too. As you can see, we are at around 200 damage and energy resistance, which is okay. However, it's not the best. So in the defensive department we could definitely do better, and I would over time definitely do that if I were more dedicated to the character. However, this is just something I quickly thrown together from stuff I had in my stash box. Best pick, I still think Vanguards is a good idea. I would throw an auto stim piece in there. Obviously more damage and energy resistance would be nice, and more power pieces could never hurt. That's about it though. Now in terms of mutations, we are pretty low-key. We do have Adrenal Reaction, Bird Bones, Egghead, Marsupial and Speed Demon. Now Marsupial and Speed Demon are pretty universally good, like I always have them. Bird Bones, I often have it. However, that kind of depends. I do have, like for example on melee characters, I think about it twice. On this occasion though, we're using agility for our VETS consumption, so having more agility is nice, and we don't really yeah, struggle with the debuffs from strength. We can live with them, and we don't use strength for anything. We don't need it for our melee damage or anything, so it's okay to have it. Adrenal reaction, similar to Marsupial and Speed Demon, always nice to have. Now if you really want to go for the best HP that you can use, well, don't use it. It's not necessary, however, I like to have it. And Egghead is just there for more intelligence in order to level up faster, which is going to be more important on this character than ever, just because it's such a high level character for me. It's my main, and I think you can see it down there. Yeah, it's level 460 now, so it takes a while to level up. Every bit of intelligence helps here, but that's about it. With legendary perks and everything, that leaves us with following special points. We do have 1 strength, 20 perception, 1 endurance, 3 charisma, 12 intelligence, 22 agility and luck. So as you can see here, pretty min-maxed in terms of our special points. Now on to our perks themselves. We do have 5 strength here. We are using it for Bandolier for our ballistic ammo and Ordnance Express for our explosives. In perception, we have a bit more interesting stuff here. We do have Tank Killer for more armor penetration with our pistol and a stagger chance. Crack Shot for situations when we are dealing with enemies that we want to hit with free aim. Exterminator and Glow Sight are very situational. And Concentrated Fire, well, this one is very beneficial. We use it all the time. Now, with Crack Shot, Exterminators and Glow Sight, the point is, they are all very situational. Most of them most of the times you're not using those perks, so there would be an argument to not use them. However, we are in this place where we want to have high perception in order to have a good VETS hit chance. Now, that leaves us with a lot of perk points to fill in perception, and you could obviously go for something like Picklock would be nice, or you could even throw in some bow perks if you want to use that weapon. However, I find it to be very beneficial to have this situational perks, simply because, well, Exterminators, it's a class that houses 2 of the, in my opinion, most dangerous enemies that you can encounter in the standard game, and that are Mylar Queens and Mylar Kings. Those guys can be a pest, and having more armor penetration against them and overall more damage against them is a nice thing to have if you use it, especially since pistols, while this is a nice pistol, they are still underperforming compared to rifles, or, well, more specifically commando weapons. So having a little edge in hard situations is nice, and same goes for Glow Sight. Now onto endurance. Rank 4 of Life Giver. As I said, fireproof not really necessary since we have a dense chest piece, and since we already have a debuff from adrenal reaction and we actually have very low base endurance due to our debuffs, yeah, having a bit more maximum health doesn't hurt us at all. We're already kind of flimsy, but with this it's okay. We're using Stimpaks here and there though. Onto Charisma. Another thing where we could have gone for more defensive perks in terms of Lone Wanderer, for example. However, as I explained in the beginning, yesterday I did that and ditched out Tenderizer, and I felt like I was missing out way more damage than 10%, which, even if I know that Tenderizer is still multiplicative and is a very good perk, it felt like I was missing out on more, so I couldn't really pinpoint the problem. However, I definitely felt like it was Tenderizer, so I decided to use that again. Now onto intelligence. We do have 10 intelligence, 5 of it comes from a legendary perk. So what I wanted to prioritize here is Demolition's Expert, simply because it gives us more base damage and it gives us the nice ability to use launcher weapons as a backup. We can even throw some grenades here and there. However, I always find them not so useful. That's why I'm not using them during my videos, basically just because I'm having a hard time timing them. And if you have room for it, or could make room for it with legendary intelligence, then I would go for Gunsmith. Now with all the changes to weapon condition, Gunsmith isn't necessary anymore, even in those weapons. You could be entirely fine without it. I just find it convenient to have still, so I do have to repair my weapons even less. But if you can just afford one of them, use Demolition's Expert, definitely. Now onto agility. This is the point where there's always a lot of compromise when it comes to Gunslinger characters. Now what you want to have here is all the Gunslinger perks maxed out. Maybe if you go for a sneak character or something, you can afford to use less of them and go for more other perks. However, on a high health non-stealth build, I'd always still go for rank 3 of all of them. Now the other 6 point we do have, we use for 3 ranks of adrenaline, just to give us a little damage going on. 1 rank of Gun-Fu, I just like to have it, especially if you're fighting something like ghouls or any crowded situation basically. It's not so much the damage benefit that you're looking for, but just the convenience of switching your targets without always having to exit vets and re-enter vets. That's costing time, and you don't really have that time if you're getting swarmed. So rank 1 of Gun-Fu is enough that we need I hope that makes sense. And yeah, rank 1 is more than enough. And the other 2 points I used for Action Boy, just to have some more AP refresh going on. Now during fights we often get our AP back due to Grim Reaper Sprint, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but yeah, we're not having a lot of AP refresh. We don't have Lone Wanderer, we only have 1 armor piece that has the powered effect, so our AP comes back relatively slowly, so having a bit more AP refresh due to Action Boy is a nice thing to have here, even though there would be other perks like Born Survivor would be a good idea. Dodgy, I don't know, on this occasion I wouldn't use it. Another thing I could see is how maybe Gun-Fu at rank 3 would be beneficial after all, or Marathoner. Now Modern Renegade was a perk that I had in my build yesterday. The actually 4 hits that come from the weapon, being a 2-shot explosive version, are working pretty nice with the crippling chance. However, I found that there's not a lot of occasions where we really need to cripple something. It doesn't work as well as on shotguns, as to say 1 shot to the legs and every enemy is immobilized, so you can use that. It doesn't work that well. It just works well if you're going against a Scorch Beast, for example, and you want to force it to land. However, you are way capable of just taking it out while it is in the air due to your thumper, and even if you want to use your pistol, you can do that at the expense of maybe like 100 shots or something. So the convenience from Modern Renegade just wasn't worth the cost in not having Action Boy or not having adrenal reaction on this occasion, so I nowadays decide against it, and that's pretty much it. And on to luck, also another special tree that we are quite invested in with 14 points. We do have Bloody Mess, very generic, a bit more damage, not the most, but I want to have it. Grim Reaper Sprint, I just talked about it. This gives us the ability to basically stay in vets all of the time as long as we're killing like super mutants, ghouls or anything. Now it's definitely happening that we're running out of AP, but it's on the rare end. It doesn't happen all that lot, and even then you not have to wait until all your AP refreshes. You just wait until you have enough to kill 1 enemy, and the moment you can do that, go for it. There's always a chance that Grim Reaper Sprint activates then, so yeah, it definitely works well. You saw it in the video. Now better criticals, pretty obviously we're in stealth all the time. Not in stealth, I'm doing the same mistake again. We're in vets all the time, so using criticals the moment we gain them means we're doing a lot of criticals, and having more damage with them is just plain beneficial. And this here is the controversial part, 4-leaf clover. Obviously if you want to go down the safe route, use critical savvy, which only makes you consume, what is it, 55% of your critical meter. That means that within 2 shots you can regain your critical meter. It's a safe bet. I wanted to use 4-leaf clover on this occasion because, similar to how shotguns work, I think it should also work with this weapon here, where every single hit you're doing with a single shot, and that means 2 hits from your 2-shot effect, 2 hits from your explosive effect on both projectiles from the 2-shot effect, meaning you're hitting your enemy for 4 times with a single shot. Now 4 times a good chance to refill your critical meter. That's a good point. Now that means if we're lucky we can get criticals relatively reliably. Now as I said, safer bet would be critical savvy. I just wanted to go for this here, simply to have a bit more dice rolls going on, because I enjoy the feeling of it, but that's about it. On average, I think both of these perks aren't better or worse on this occasion here with this weapon. And lastly, storage jeans, nothing out of the ordinary here. And onto our legendary perks. We do have Ammo Factory, which we don't, yeah, it's Ammo Factory, so you can pretty much ignore that. Then we have 2 ranks of legendary endurance, 5 ranks of legendary intelligence, which I already talked about, 2 ranks of legendary strength, and 2 ranks of legendary perception. The 2 ranks of legendary perception we don't really recognize in terms of perks, because we are at a base 15 perception, so they're just giving us a little bit more wets hit chance. Strength gives us the ability to use another carry weight perk. Intelligence, yeah, as I said, that's gunsmith basically. And legendary endurance, yep, that one we'd really need. I think having even less health with only rank 2 of life giver, for example, it would make you a bit more squishy at the end. However, the extra endurance in terms of endurance itself, meaning 2 times endurance would be 10 hit points. Yeah, we don't even see that because our debuff's dragging us down to 1 endurance anyway, even with that perk. So that's about it. Here, by the way, should be legendary agility. Not sure why I didn't use it, so might as well. It's just a little bit more more bad shots, but I think you can imagine how the build would have performed with that. And that being said, that was the build. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm actually quite happy that I re-recorded the video. Was a joy. I really just felt that the build and the video yesterday wasn't really doing the weapon justice. That's pretty much it. It was okay, the video wasn't that bad at all, but yeah, I really loved the weapon and I really had a good time playing with this build, and seeing it underperform that big was kind of hurting. So I just wanted to make the build right and redo my mistakes. Not redo my mistakes, but learn from the mistakes and change them. You know what I'm talking about. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. I think I'm even maybe recording another video today. Depending on how fast this one here uploads, it might be possible I'm not doing it anyways. Have a nice time, guys. See you next time. Bye.